Well, good day, everyone. My name is Brad Etheridge, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for the Center for Tax Strategies and Resources. We're glad you're able to join us here today. We're going to spend about an hour together. For those of you who completely didn't live through COVID or anything else, if you have any questions about the presenting or the format, you can click on the tab that's on your right screen, just like every other Zoom and GoToMeeting that you've had to endure for the last 15, 16 months. But go ahead and click the button. If we have any questions that come up, we will answer them. Our team's ready to answer them during the presentation. A little bit about the center. We are not an IMO. We're not a broker dealer. We don't care where you place your business. We're all about education. And the center itself is an organization that really provides a lot of resources and training for independent advisors, really across the board, from CPAs. We have some tax attorneys. We have life insurance agents, we have P&C guys across the board. Just about everybody that provides financial services to their clients join our group, pay dues, and end up sharing in the knowledge, expertise, and a huge team that we've put to support all those folks once they join. And you'll see one of the examples of that today, and I'll have ask Simon, our founder, to be able to introduce our speaker. But just prior for that, for those of you that don't know Simon, he's been successfully in our industry since the 60s. He's written several business bestsellers on financial services. He's a sought-after speaker, a member of some very prestigious groups like Advisors in Philanthropy, and been the past president of the Forum, Insurance Forum, International Forum. You ever had one of those days where it's like, you know exactly what you're going to say, it doesn't come out? That's exactly what I'm going through right now. So I'm really glad we could be here to share this with you live.
Well, you know, I'm probably not going to help you. So
probably not. He's also the recipient of the National Humanitarian Award, which is quite an honor. He is the founder of the center. And Simon, because you're probably going to do better than I am at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate that. Oh my goodness, an old picture. So Brad said I've been in this business since the 60s. Actually, that's 1967. I started when I was 5. Yeah, I'm hearing too much giggling there. The whole purpose of the center is, let me tell you what's missing in our industry. There used to be a lot of home office training where the major companies, since it was mostly a mutual world, the major companies would send out people that specialized in training in human behavior and taxes and estate planning and retirement planning, et cetera. The industry doesn't do that anymore. The industry has become numbers on a page. And so what I decided a couple of years ago, and sought out the help of Brad and Bobby and Todd, is that create a center for being able to bring back the kind of thought process and education and training that we all used to get. I mean, I remember I was in an agency on Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles, and on the floor above me, I was in a bullpen. In the floor above me was 3 of the major producers with Connecticut Mutual, and I was free at any time I wanted to go up and talk to them. I was free to ask them if they would help me with a case. I was free to ask them if they would do a case with me. We're now basically lone wolves. Most of us don't have offices with lots of other producers, so we can share information, share successes, share failures. Our business is very significantly failure oriented, and those that can deal with that seem to do better and seem to last more. But you're not required to change licenses. You're not required to change contracts. You're not required to change broker dealers. You're not required to write business through us. It is truly a learning center. And the people that have joined so far, and we're only a couple of years old, but we've got roughly 100 members during this time period. And membership isn't expensive. It's about $450 a month. And we provide access to tax attorneys and to CPAs and to software companies. And because of the volume of people and the reputation we've been able to establish, we get very significant discounts. We pass those discounts on to the members. You're not required to use them. It's just that we're trying to put together the things that have been successful for us, and hopefully they're successful for you. So about 5 years ago, I met our speaker today, Dr. Vicki Rackner. We met in a hotel in Seattle, Washington. Actually, it was Bellevue, Washington. And the reason is I'd received some marketing material from Dr. Rackner, and it seemed to kind of blend with the type of things that we're trying to do, which is education and making the industry better, and because the reputation isn't that great. And if you see me moving around down here, it's my golden retriever has just decided he was going to come up and put his head in my lap. So that's what I'm doing right now. And so she brings a very unique perspective. First of all, she was a surgeon for 30 years. Secondly, even to this day, she is still teaching residents and medical students up at the University of Washington, I believe, in Seattle, Washington. And she has now spent the last 10 years, maybe even longer now, the last 10 years in trying to figure out and help doctors become more efficient with their finances. Instead of making bad deals, investing conservatively and looking to reduce taxes of all types, long-term capital gains, ordinary income tax, estate tax, gift tax, as a means of making them more efficient. And in today's world, it's even more important because the doctors' incomes are down. So Dr. Rackner heads up our Doctors Academy of Economics, which is another entity that the center is involved with that helps to market and educate doctors and dentists. She's a terrific lady. I think you're going to get great value out of this. So at this time, I'd like to present today's speaker, Dr. Vicki Rackner. Doctor, take over.
Well, thank you so much. And we've had some kind of terrible thing happen. My slides just closed and they are not opening again.
That's okay. You can use hand signals.
Puppets. Do we have any puppets? We need some puppets.
Okay.
Take your time. It's fine.
Okay. All right. Let's try this and see. Okay. Yay. Okay, here we go. So a couple of months ago, I was taking my dog for a walk and I came upon something you just don't see every day. A windstorm had blown through and it actually blew the dock from its mooring. And as I looked at that, I thought, what a perfect metaphor for what we have all been through in this COVID environment, but particularly doctors. So today, I'd like to spend some time talking about how to attract, engage, and serve doctor clients and why they need you now. Now, I know many people in your industry have had a tough year, but I will tell you that a lot of my clients have had one of the best years ever in 2020. And how and why is that? Well, these are the people who really understand where the pain points are, where the struggles are, and they've worked really hard to offer solutions. So if you've ever wondered, how do I get a doctor's attention, or how do I inspire a doctor to take action, you are in the right place, because every day I talk with people about how to acquire doctor clients without wasting your time, your money, or your effort, even if you've had disappointing results in the past. That's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get there, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is how in the world does a surgeon come to talk about how to acquire doctor clients? So here's my story. If my life had a bumper sticker, it would probably read, heal thyself. So I face problems, I solve them for myself, and then I help other people solve them. So I was actually in a graduate program when I fainted one day on my way to the bathroom. I was bleeding internally. This is my real operative note. And by the time the surgeons got into my belly, about half of my blood volume was in my pelvis. So I thought, this is the end. I was so grateful to wake up. I knew I was going to be a doctor, save other people's lives like my own had been saved. And not surprisingly, I became a surgeon. I was in private practice. I was the first woman on staff, so I quickly evolved into a breast cancer surgeon. Well, in 2000, I took a leave from my practice to step into a caregiver role. And pretty much spent full time doing my caregiving. After the year was up, I sort of thought about what next, and I had this great idea. How about if I started this company helping doctors and patients collaborate more effectively to get better medical care at a lower cost? I thought this is going to be awesome. And the reality is I struggled and struggled and struggled. I invested in courses and mentors. I actually once calculated that I've invested more in my sales and marketing training than literally I did in medical school tuition. Well, I remember one day going over to Europe for a speaking engagement. I went to plug in my laptop. And of course, you can't do that directly because Europe is wired differently than the US. You need an adapter to make it happen. And I thought, that is it. I, as a doctor, am wired differently than business-minded people. And if I can only create this adapter, I'll be able to plug into my buyers more effectively and get better medical outcomes. And I did, and I did. So I'm humbled to be invited to be a keynote speaker at national meetings. The press calls me asking my opinions. I've written any number of books. And I'm not saying this to boast, but rather to make a point. And the point is that my value was exactly the same before and after I created this adapter, but having greater understanding of my buyer and being able to speak their language made the difference. So if you have tried to acquire doctor clients in the past and haven't gotten the results that you wanted, I suspect that I feel your pain because it's the exact same problem that I faced when I made my transition from being a surgeon to being an entrepreneur. So the big message I'd like to take away is that doctors are wired differently than business-minded clients. You can't just take what you do for small business owners and kind of plop it down into the medical market. It just doesn't work very well, but I can show you what does work. Okay, so then 2008 rolls around and I am seeing more and more doctors telling me about their financial pain, like doctors filing for bankruptcy, doctors who are getting divorced and they don't know if they're ever gonna retire. And I started thinking, well, gee, maybe I'm not the only person who has, shall we say, a dysfunctional relationship with money. And if you've ever worried about money, you know that unless and until you can get the money piece of your life settled, nothing else is gonna get settled. I thought, I'm not the person to offer financial advice, but I did know that I wanted to make a difference in a big way. So I had this idea. What if I groomed a community of financial services professionals to really understand doctors, give them this adapter so that they could successfully engage? And voila, my company, Engaging Doctors, was born. So for the past decade, I've been helping financial services professionals get real results. Okay, so let's get back into this core business because obviously this presentation is about you, not me. So how do I take what I've learned and I can help you? Okay, so doctors are wired differently. I divide the world into suits and white coats. So I am natively wired like a white coat. I think like a doctor. I can tell people how I think doctors are going to respond to a given marketing message. You, on the other hand, are wired like a suit. You're a business person. Okay, how are these two people different? Well, what we all share is that we all want to be successful, right? And the core difference between a suit and a white coat is the metric for success. So ultimately, when I work with my private coaching clients or people who go through my courses, ultimately, I want to help them get more money in their bank account. I want to help them be more profitable. So if, at the end of 2020, you had a meeting with your staff and said, great work, everyone, profits are up 20%, everyone would applaud. If a doctor, though, went into the doctor's dining room and said, man, 2020 was great, my profits were up by 20%, that doctor would be referred to a psychiatrist, because that is just not how doctors talk. It's not how they think. For doctors, we measure our success by the impact that we're having, the number of patients that we serve, the kinds of results that we're helping our patients get. Now, clearly, service and profits are tied together, right? You wouldn't be profitable unless you truly served your clients and prospects. Similarly, doctors are not going to stay in business unless they can keep their lights on. So they are tied together, but I would say that the core difference is a relationship with money. And doctors have a dysfunctional relationship with money. Now, if you ran a restaurant, this might be kind of an interesting side note, but your core value proposition is around money. So really understanding doctors and their relationship with money is going to be key to your success. Okay, is this just fluff or does this really matter? Well, let me share with you an episode of one of my favorite shows, Shark Tank. I watch Shark Tank as part of my ongoing education. So one day, a doctor entered the Shark Tank to get funding for his company, Syndaver. He sold synthetic cadavers. This is about $1 billion industry. He'd already had millions of dollars in sales, and the sharks were all engaged. I thought, this guy is going to get a 5-shark deal. But then the questions started. You know, Mr. Wonderful said, tell us about your revenue. Tell us about your profitability. And there on national TV, this doctor said, well, I suppose I could be making a lot of money, but money's really not that important to me. What's important is making a difference. And with that answer, 4 sharks were out. He got a deal with Robert Herjavec that fell apart in a couple of weeks. Now, what was the problem here? It was not that the doctor was not offering a high value investment. This would have been a great investment. The problem is that the doctor wasn't saying the things that would inspire the sharks to take action. What do the sharks care about? They care about seeing a return on their investment. What the doctor should have said on national TV is, I am going to treat your money like my own children. I'm going to make them grow. I'm going to make sure that they're nurtured so that you see a strong return on your investment. And the failure to use that language literally cost him the deal. Okay, now imagine that there's another reality show. Let's call it Surgeon's Lounge. So you enter into a room, there's 5 surgeons sitting in plush leather chairs. You are trying to get a deal with as many of these surgeons as possible. And the major mistake that I see financial advisors make is exactly the same mistake that the doctor made when he entered the Shark Tank. It's a failure to understand what's important to the buyer and then center the marketing message and the language around that. So my decade of experience helping people acquire doctor clients is that marketing to doctors neither follows a B2B nor a B2C model. It's different. I call it the B to D model, conducting business with doctors. And there is a system that's proven to actually work. It's been tested for a decade now. So if you've struggled with doctor client acquisition in the past, you might have some insight about maybe how it could be different in the future. Well, you know, it's easy enough to just work with business owners. Why might you be interested in adding that layer of complexity in working with doctors? And here's some pretty compelling reasons. The first is Sutton's law. When Willie Sutton was asked, why do you rob banks? He said, well, that's where the money is. And if you look at any niche, the medical market is where the money is. There are about 1 million practicing physicians, 200,000 practicing dentists in the US. According to the US Department of Labor statistics, 10 out of 10 of the top earners in the US call themselves doctors. Further, about 40% of doctors are age 40 or older, so this is where there is a concentration of wealth. But here is the most important number. Half of doctors report that they are behind in retirement planning. Only half are working with professional financial services people. And not surprisingly, those who are working with professionals are more likely to be on track. So there are a huge number of doctors who have a difficult time translating those high incomes into true wealth, the freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it, when the paycheck ends. But especially now, as you're thinking about how you're going to set yourself up for business success in the future, you might be looking at questions like, okay, in the post-COVID world, who is going to be successful? And we will always need doctors. You know, our medical care is never going to be outsourced. I mean, some pieces might be, medical transcription might go to India. You know, there might be doctors in the Philippines who are reading x-rays. But for right now, people want to touch doctors. And so this is an industry that is a very secure industry. As we looked at how we recovered from the Great Recession in 2008, the medical market was one of the first to recover. So this is a solid industry. Further, doctors tend to be very, very loyal clients. So you know, with the ultra high net worth, client acquisition isn't nearly as difficult as client retention. In the medical market, you just flip that. The barrier to entry is high, but I'll tell you, you know, if you know how to engage doctors successfully, that's good news, because that high barrier to entry keeps out the competition. But that doctor is probably going to be with you for life. But the best thing is that doctors gossip like teenage girls. And so the end game is to be the go-to guy or go-to gal among targeted groups of doctors who network together. So how did I find my financial advisor? Well, one day I got a really big check. I went to my buddy Bob and I said, Bob, I just got a big check. I just divorced my husband who would manage the money. What do I do? And he said, well, you need a financial advisor. Here, why don't you go see my guy? He does a good job for me. My wife runs a nonprofit. She says he does a good job for them too. Well, as far as I was concerned, because of my trust in Bob, I'd already chosen. I mean, I can't imagine what that financial advisor could have done to dissuade me from this choice that I'd already made. So physicians impact physicians. And that means that in the medical market, you are set up to achieve what I call escape velocity. So if you were going to launch a rocket ship, a lot of the initial oomph would be to overcome the gravitational field of the Earth. But once you're beyond the ionosphere, it's pretty much smooth sailing. Similarly, you know, getting your first 5 doctor clients, you know, you're going to invest energy doing that, but you do that with the end in mind. You do that knowing that each of these doctors are members of circles. And ultimately, what you want to do is build your stripes as the trusted insider and get these doctors to spread the word around you. So I've got a private coaching client. Back in 2019, we were talking about a new marketing campaign, and he said, look, Dr. Vicki, we're just going to have to pull the plug on it. I am getting so many new doctors just calling me that I don't even know how I'm going to onboard them. So he had become the go-to guy. So now whenever anyone new entered those circles, they were given his name. You got to go see this guy. Well, I wasn't going to let him get away with this. So what did we do? we figured out how to grow things. So instead of him working with doctors, we created a medical division at his firm. We brought in 2 junior colleagues, and now he's the rainmaker, not just for one person, but for 3 people. So yes, you are going to invest more energy at the beginning, but you do this with the end in mind, that there is this huge potential for growth. Okay, so with all of these great things, why aren't financial advisors just rolling in success? Well, as they call me, I'm reminded of a story from my son's toddler years. So he had this love affair with truck. And, when we went for walks in the evening, and if we saw a construction truck parked on the street, the reality is we would go and play on them. So one day we came across this huge construction site. And my son pointed his chubby little toddler finger in the direction of the dirt pile and said, "Touch trucks." I said, "Sweetie, that would be great, but look, there's a fence all around the construction site. And do you see the sign on the locked gate? It says, 'Do not enter.'" And he thought for a moment and he said, "Take down sign." And in a sense, this is what I do. I unlock the doors so that you can go onto the medical turf with your hard hat like an insider and really engage doctors. All right, so I could have given all of this talk in 2019, but things are different today in May of 2021. And I'd like to share with you some of the forces that are shaping your ability to reach doctors and also doctors' need for you. So, big story is the COVID pandemic. And the COVID pandemic has had significant health impacts for doctors. So, early in 2020, you would see crazy things like doctors who took ER call renting a hotel room so they would not take COVID home to their family. Unfortunately, there were fatalities. It wasn't as many as we feared. The reason that I bring this up to you now, even though most healthcare professionals are in fact vaccinated, is that most doctors are underinsured. So when you are talking with doctors, whether it's your own clients or whether it's a prospect, they understand now that morbidity, getting sick, and mortality are more than just theoretical concerns. It's very real. And so this is a great time to make sure that all of the insurance policies are up to date. The second is that doctors are feeling the financial consequences of COVID. So think about what we did in 2020. We were sheltering in place, and why? It's to make sure that the demand for healthcare services did not exceed the supply. Okay, what did COVID patients need? They needed to be on a vent, right? And every time I operated on a breast cancer patient, that patient was on a vent. So hospitals decided, look, we are just going to postpone any elective cases so that we have all of the vents, all of the resources for our COVID patients. Now, these elective cases are the engines that drive profitability of individual practices, of hospitals, and of clinics. And this had a significant impact. So about a year ago, the Mayo Clinic, which is the single largest employer in the state of Minnesota, projected a $3 billion shortfall. And they responded with across-the-board pay cuts. So we doctors always thought that we had complete job security. We never would have imagined that contracts would be terminated, that one day, a plastic surgeon earning $1.2 million a year would see a decrease in income by 80 to 90%. I'm a fellow of the American College of Surgeons, and they really stepped up and offered leadership, and they were sending out invitations to webinars with titles like Economic Survival Strategies for the COVID World. There were doctors who went bankrupt in 2020. So we never saw this coming. Remember, half of doctors were already behind in retirement planning. A lot of them didn't have emergency funds. So this was a tough year. So every year, an organization called Medscape, MEDSCAPE, does a compensation report. So they just send out surveys to hundreds of thousands of doctors and see what the results are. You can go and sign up for a free Medscape account, and you can get access to just really information-packed reports. But let me just share with you just two pieces of data from this report. The first is that they showed, how much doctors were reporting earning. And the trends are generally the same. The ologists, the gastroenterologists, cardiologists, urologists, they're at the top, and the primary care people are at the bottom. Now, these are just averages, right? So I personally know an entrepreneurial primary care doctor who decided to really ramp up and formed a couple of new facilities in 2020. And this person generated about 1.5 million in profits in 2020. So these are general trends. This year they asked a very, very interesting question. When will you return to pre-COVID income levels? About 40% said in the next year. About 40% said about, the next 2 or 3 years. 10% said never. So 2020 brought really, really interesting changes. Doctors are worried that, their financial security that they once thought that they had is not there. So there's a private Facebook group about doctors who want to launch side gigs. There's 78,000 doctors who are in this group. More and more doctors are interested in how they can generate passive revenue through real estate investing. So there's an anesthesiologist in Los Angeles, Peter Kim, who started this group. There's 14,000 members there. So doctors are really interested in new kinds of things. If you are at all interested in entrepreneurship or interested in supporting entrepreneurship, there is a captive market for you. Okay, third big change is that you might have seen your doctor this year through a telemedicine visit. Now, this technology has been around forever. So why are we just seeing televisits for the first time? Well, the reality is that doctors didn't really have a way of getting paid for them because insurance companies weren't paying for it. In the COVID pandemic, the insurance companies relented. And I think that doctors opened their eyes to the possibilities of building relationships virtually. We got a chance to see what can happen. And what this means for you is that you might have thought in the past, in order to prospect doctors, you needed to get knee to knee with them. So your prospecting area might have been, within an hour or two drive of your office. But now doctors are building relationships with all sorts of professionals virtually too. So that means that potentially anywhere in the United States is your prospecting area. Next, doctors are social creatures. We haven't been gathering at medical meetings. They're all virtual. And so now doctors are socializing on social media platforms. Probably the platform of choice is Facebook because doctors can form these private Facebook groups. And to join the Facebook groups, I have to tell them what year I graduated from medical school. I have to provide picture ID, and they verify I am who I am before they're let in. So they know that they can have these conversations without their patients eavesdropping on them. I'm a member of these groups. I can tell you that they are asking questions to each other that they should be asking you. What kind of corporation should I form, an S Corp or a C Corp? How much life insurance do I really need? And every time I see that, I suggest to doctors that I would be happy to make an introduction to a vetted professional whose business it is to provide good answers to these questions. Probably the last trend that I just want to highlight here is, unfortunately, the epidemic of unhappiness. So pre-COVID, there was already an epidemic of physician burnout and physician suicide. We lose approximately the equivalent of a medical school class to suicide each year. And just this year, Medscape, did their annual report about burnout and suicide. And I think that the title, Death by 1,000 Cuts, pretty much says it all. So the incidence of burnout in 2020 was about the same as the incidence of burnout in 2019. It's about 42%. So 42% of doctors said that at some time during the year, the joy was gone. They didn't want to go to work anymore. Now, when they looked at the burned out doctors in 2020, they found that about 80% came into the COVID pandemic burned out, and another 20% flipped over with all of the stresses of COVID. This year, they asked an interesting question. They said, which would help most to reduce your burnout? The number one answer is increase compensation to avoid financial stress. Now, let me bring and remind you of data from the compensation survey. Remember, when doctors were asked, when is your compensation going to return to normal? The majority of doctors said it's going to be longer than a year. So we've got a chicken and egg problem, right? So we've got lower incomes because of the COVID pandemic. We've got burnout. In order to resolve the burnout, we need more money. But here is why I'm so privileged and grateful to be associated with the tax center. Like, how do you break this cycle? What if you help doctors harvest tax savings? Now, as Simon mentioned, I am so honored to regularly be invited to attend the summits that are coming right up. And I remember sitting in the audience, because I'm always learning, right? I was sitting in the audience and Simon asked, what's your number one expense? And there were answers from the audience, my house, my kids, my wife's shopping habits. And he said, no, actually, your number one lifetime expense are your taxes. And so this is a little cartoon I put together after I heard that, and I really got it. Okay, so if a doctor is trying to navigate to wealth, there's a lot of icebergs. There's a lot of things that get in the way, but the predictable problem is taxes. So if doctors have just one thing that they can pay attention to, it can and should be taxes. It's the way of breaking this cycle and alleviating the financial stresses. And the thing is that most doctors don't even think about it. They say, hey, look, I'm already working with a really, really talented CPA. All of my buddies are using this CPA. I am fine. But helping doctors understand that they are probably overpaying their taxes, that there are things that they could legally and ethically do. to, save tens to potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars is a very compelling message. I mean, one of my own clients is a tax strategist who saved an orthopedic surgeon over $950,000 in a single year. So bringing this tax message to doctors is a powerful intervention. So how do you reach doctors? One of the things that I think is really important is bringing a yummy treat. So if you've ever trained a dog to come, especially a puppy, you know that you put the puppy on a sit stay and then issue the command come. They look at you, they don't know what's going on. And so since the dog's not coming to you, you go to the dog, you try to approach the dog. And now the dog thinks that this is a game of catch me, and the dog runs out. The better way to train a dog is issue the command come, have a really yummy treat, and then the dog starts associating the command with the yummy treat, right? Okay, so the wrong way to try to reach doctors is to chase after them. The right way of doing it is to offer them yummy treats. So, create some yummy treats, understand your doctors, and then have yummy treats that doctors really want. So let me just show you a couple of yummy treats that really have been working. So I was invited to participate in a webinar hosted by a national medical association. So Simon and one of the center members and myself addressed this question: Doctor, are you overpaying your taxes? I sort of talked peer-to-peer to doctors about taxes, just some general ideas. And then Simon and the tax center member came and shared some stories. And guess what? The president of the association and many others called to get more information. So this kind of thing works. And at the upcoming meeting, I'm going to talk about how to craft a tax message that doctors can actually hear. But I've got other yummy treats that work. 10 ways to generate and keep income as a doctor entrepreneur. I mean, for the since 2000, I've actually found ways that I've been able to replace my income as a surgeon. This is something that doctors are generally interested in. I've written a couple of books for doctors, summarizing what I learned from all of my conversations with doctors about their money story, the myth of the rich doctor, and the 9 money mistakes that doctors make. Probably the single best marketing tool that I have ever offered is giving financial advisors the opportunity to write a foreword and an afterword to these books. I help them craft their signature story, and I help them craft a call to action. This works great. And I am so pleased to announce that I've got a new book coming out on July 1st called How Doctors Build True Wealth, and it's not about the money. Doctors want control. So this book is about how you take control of your career and your money and your life. So if I were to offer a single tip to you, it would be show doctors that you can help them by actually helping them. Deliver some yummy treats. Every encounter that you have with the doctor is an opportunity to leave them just a little better off than they were before they engaged with you. And leaving them a little better off is not an advertisement for yourself, right? It's not saying, I help doctors pay back student loans. You can offer them a little tip. Hey, when you think about your student loans, here is something to consider. So given where we are today at this moment in time, when doctors just felt their tax pain, they're recovering from the financial outfall of the COVID pandemic, this is a time of huge opportunity, especially for somebody who has a text message for doctors. So you can return to your hopes and dreams the same way that doctors can. You know, it was really interesting watching all of the efforts to get that dock tied back to its mooring. Similarly, getting doctors back to where they were at the end of 2019, and even better, is going to take some work. But you can be one of those experts who's helping them do this, because you know what? Most doctors are seeing that this is not a do-it-yourself plan. So what is your plan? You know, Hank Greenberg said so famously, all I want in life is an unfair advantage. And observing Simon and Brad for years and years and years, that is what they are all about. They genuinely want their members to be successful. You know, sometimes you go to some fancy sales and marketing webinars and it's sort of like, okay, are these guys just salespeople or are they the real deal? I am here to tell you they are the real deal. I'm not on their payroll. I'm not telling you this so that I get paid more. I am just genuinely committed to helping my clients be successful. And so I will tell you, it's been a real honor to work with them and learn from them. I sort of feel like I'm learning from the best. Probably the best book that I read this year is Who, Not How, and I highly recommend it. So let's say you want to get to that next level of business success. You know, you might be asking yourself, yeah, how do I do that? What skills do I need? The point of this book is that the more strategic question is to ask, who can help me do this? So if you're interested in engaging doctors with tax strategies, the tax center is your who. If you're interested in engaging doctors, I am your who. This is what I do all day, every day. I'm so excited that I'm going to be delivering some content at the upcoming summit. And let me just give you a little taste of the kinds of things that I'll be talking about. So I'm going to be talking about how to jump on July opportunities to engage doctors. And let me just give you a little background. July 1st is a red letter day in the medical community. And the reason is that medical school starts on July 1st. So the end of June, everyone advances a level so that, you know, everyone can move forward, right? So a doctor completing training is going to sign his or her first contract and usually start on July 1st. And because doctors sign annual contracts, most doctors who start new positions do so on July 1st. So there's a lot of money in motion. So people who are really interested in working with doctors, they're not taking vacation in the summer. They are really focusing on marketing campaigns. And just as a tip, if you have any choice, try to avoid the hospitals around July 1st because everyone is totally new. So at the summit, I'll talk about why July is special, why July 21st is special, and how you leverage these opportunities. But let me just kind of give you the landscape here. So, you know, how does a doctor become a doctor? Well, they go to undergraduate school. So they graduate when they're about 21. Then they go to medical school for 4 years. So in general, they're about 25 when they get out of medical school. Then they go to residency for 3 to 5 years. So they're, let's say 30 when they get out. And then there's fellowship training for 1 to 4 years. So let's say they're 34 when they get done. And so at 35, they launch into their careers. Okay, well, like if you want to follow the money, what does that look like? Well, let's take a real person, Sam. So Sam borrowed $50,000 for his undergraduate degree. He borrowed another $150,000 for medical school. Then he went into orthopedic residency, and finally, he's earning some money. He's earning about $60,000 a year, but he decides to go on to fellowship training and decides where to go. And during fellowship, some doctors can really step into their true earning potential. He decided to go to New York, where the average was $231,000 a year. And then if you look at the kind of, career launch, starting income for a fellowship trained orthopedic surgeon is about $500,000. So there's a lot of variation depending on, where you located, depending on, whether or not the doctor has negotiated. So you've got new doctors coming to town who don't have a financial advisor yet, who are going to be earning $500,000 starting right now. Wouldn't it be great to be able to reach out to them? So I will be sharing, ways of actually doing that. I will provide you with some yummy treats. And I will just say that I am here to make a difference in doctors' lives. Like, that's my why. And I know that they need you. And so what I try to do is give you the tools so that you are going to be able to go into your community and help more doctors achieve the financial freedom to do what they want to do when they want to do it. And I'm particularly interested in how you jump to the next level of productivity in the medical market. So you might be starting from zero, trying to get to, I want to get 20 new doctor clients this year. You might be going to, I'm working with 20, I want to work with 60 this year. So wherever you are, I want to help you jump to that next level. So one day I remember getting a call from a financial advisor. She and her husband were actually very successful working with doctors. I said to her, you're already successful. Why are you talking to me? She said, I know that if I enroll in the course and just pick up one new idea, I'm going to be able to fund my fantasy Christmas trip, which is taking my family to the Dolomites. Well, guess what? That year, she dropped me a postcard from the Dolomites. So no matter where you are now, no matter what has happened in the past, this is a time of new opportunity.
Hey, Doc, can I interrupt for a second? Before we met, and I'm going to go back about 15 years now, I was introduced to a group of 7 doctors by their CPA and the tax attorney. And these were the board of directors of a medium-sized HMO. And we met with each of the doctors individually. 5 of them became clients. 1 of them declined to become a client. And the last one, which was the CEO, every single one of those 5 clients that liked what we were doing insisted that they had to talk to the CEO first. And I was very frightened of that, to be quite frank with you. But we talked with the CEO, and the CEO became a client also, as well as the other 6. Each one, there's probably about $5 million of assets under management and about $1 million of life insurance. I said each one, I'm giving it totals now. But without knowing that doctors talk to other doctors in order to help make decisions, by chance, it happened to work out. And then when you and I started talking about this, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I thought to myself, wow, I could have saved an awful lot of time in dealing with doctors who are typically difficult to get to and very difficult to make decisions without their wife present. It would have saved me a lot of time and generated a lot of revenue. But I'm not sure if I've told you that story before, but it has worked every single time. So thank you for that. Before you jump in, Bradley, Doctor, you're still giving our members discounts, right?
Absolutely, because I'm a huge fan of yours. And so, like these yummy treats. Okay, well, I offer three kinds of services. I offer courses. So my signature course that I've been perfecting over the past 10 years is the Cracking the Physician Code course. And yes, I'm offering a significant discount on that. So, before I treated patients, I had to go to medical school. This is like, the business medical school for people who really want to work with doctors. So this is going to help you avoid a lot of the costly mistakes that doctors make. My second arm are coaching services. So really helping you say the right thing so that you're going to engage doctors. And then the third are these yummy treats, the content. And this is what I'm really excited about. Now, Simon and Brad, you got your names on books, so I think you can speak to the power of having the kind of credibility that comes with having your name on the cover of the book. And in my offering, another value is that you've got your name tied to mine, and I've got a national reputation as a physician. So now you're under my umbrella of credibility, and this opens up the red velvet rope. This is kind of magical. So yes, I am offering a discount for Tax Center members for all three of those services.
Absolutely. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, Doctor, first of all, thank you for all the nice things you say about the center. We feel the same thing about you. It's been wonderful all these years of spending time and how much you passionately care about what you do. And I'm going to ask you to hang on for one more moment, if you would, because I want you to just sort of give a little highlight of what you might be talking about at the upcoming Academy. But seeing you just mentioned that a moment ago, let me just do a quick overview of what you were referring to at the Academy for the folks that haven't been to one of ours before. You can learn more about the entire sales process, plus how to use strategic alliances like Dr. Vicki Rackner and all the other folks that we have as faculty. And I'll show you a few of those here in just a moment too. And all the alliances, tax laws, strategies, we feel the very best way to open relationships or enhance relationships with either new or existing clients is obviously via taxes. And how to save taxes, eliminate unnecessary taxes, how to create those opportunities. We have a virtual academy that's going to be June 14th through 16th. It is an incredible 3-day period where I believe, what do we have, Simon, 16 or 17 speakers, all subject matter experts. In fact, why don't you pop that slide up if you would for me a minute, Todd, the one that has the faculty, just so we can do a quick example.
Yeah, I believe we've got 17 speakers with 1 or 2 still in the queue. And there's approximately 18 hours of content spread over the 3 days. And there will be tax attorneys speaking on the new proposed tax laws, on strategies to offset the increases, on asset protection, on estate planning, doing little mini tax reduction plans for small business owners, assets under management folks. And what you get as a member of the center is you get access to these people where you would not normally be able to garner access on your own. And, you know, it's interesting, Dr. Rackner mentioned Sullivan's book, and it caused me to think that in the title of it, which I was impressed with, but it also caused me to think that we're basically teaching not what, because you can go look up grantor retained annuity trust or pension plan or sale to a defective trust. You can look that up on the internet and in 5 minutes become a theoretical expert because you'll know more than most people. The problem is it's not so much what, it's how to orchestrate the conversation, how to orchestrate the engagement, how to orchestrate the creation of new clients, how to orchestrate the getting of very, very high level referrals. All of that is discussed. In addition to, we've created a strategic alliance program for CPAs right now as well. So that how is really important. Dr. Rackner said the same thing. Sullivan said the same thing. Bill Bacharach, you know, who's a famous coach in our industry, says the same thing. It's the how. It's not the what.
Yeah, and in the one you brought up a really good point, Simon. It comes down to making your independent practice larger. Getting access to these folks is very difficult unless you're in the very highest echelon. But we were able to leverage those and get those people to come back in. It makes your practice. It provides a multiple to your practice so that you're independent, but you have an association with the center as the member. So look at it as kind of like a study group on steroids with some phenomenal resources that are next to impossible to access as an independent. So there we've had up here on the screen our superstar faculty. We constantly have new folks coming to us that are subject matter experts, so we try to keep the academy always on the cutting edge of what's going on. So recently, as an example, Bruce Givner, who's an amazing tax attorney, spent a bunch of time with our members talking about changes in the tax code and how it's going to affect the clients, how to be prepared to optimize those changes. The entire list is incredible, and Dr. Vicki Rackner is one of our all-time favorite faculty members. So again, on the event that's coming up there, let's go up to that slide a minute. That has the pricing on it too. So let you know we've got an offer for you to attend, because it's not free to attend these events, because these are pretty substantial time commitments on behalf of all the speakers as well as us. The Center's Virtual Academy is June 14 through 16. We start at 8 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. We run till 3. Sometimes we run a few minutes later if there's questions that come up or there's reasons to stay on a little bit longer than that. When you register for this, if you are a non-member, you will have 7 days from when we post this to replay all of the content that you've gone through as many times as you like. If you're a member and you've registered for this, you have the opportunity to archive that forever. So if you want to register, go to our website, www.yourctsr.com. Under the upcoming event tab, you'll see it's $645 for non-members to attend the Academy, and it's about half that for members. So again, being a member would save you quite a bit on these live academies as well as the virtual. The first 20 to register today will get 75 off. Where are we at with that now? We're
at 11. There's 11 slots open.
Okay, so the next 11 slots will get a $75 discount on that. And by the way, this is, I hate this word because it's so overused, but it's a game changer. If you become a member or you don't, you attend the Academy, you will end up with ideas and concepts that will raise your practice income. And I think you'll be pretty impressed with what you see. We've done several of these and we get just rave reviews. So $570 investment for the next, now it's 9, for the next 9 that register. And we will, if you want more information on the center or about the Academy or about becoming a member, go ahead and call 877-258-2837. Or if you prefer, you can email us at thecenterteam@yourctsr.com. Be happy to tell you more about us or answer your questions. So now let's go back, as promised, let's go back to Dr. Vicki here a moment. And the question I was going to ask you, Doctor, are you back on? Click on that camera. There she is. Hey, Doc.
Hey there.
Okay, so how about a little highlight? What's your, give us one little yummy treat about what you're going to cover at the Academy in your section.
Well, I think how you talk about tax savings with doctors, like the language that you use, how to craft the message, is critical. I think that this is the sexiest message that you can bring to doctors right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you.
If most financial planners are talking about assets under management and yields and modern portfolio theory, et cetera, but none of them guarantee a statutory return on investment of 40 or 45%, which is the equivalent of what a reduction of income taxes is. In today's world in California, which is where I am, we're a little bit over 50% on people making $400,000 or more. There are ways to dramatically reduce that. And if I can reduce something by $1, I just saved them 50 cents in taxes, or $100,000, I saved them $50,000 in taxes. And Bruce Givner, who you mentioned earlier, did a webinar for us on tax strategies to avoid, because they are potentially career-ending strategies, no matter how good they sound. We don't participate in those. We participate in black letter law. There's plenty of opportunity in black letter law to be able to substantially reduce taxes. And the problem is, and the reason we created this strategic alliance program for CPAs, is that the client believes their CPA knows everything about the tax law and will pick up the phone and call them if there's something they should be doing. But when I ask a prospective client or a doctor, when's the last time you received that call from your CPA that will help you reduce taxes, the answer is never. They never get that call. It's not that CPAs don't know the tax code in general, but their specialty is putting the right numbers in the right boxes. It's not in giving prospective advice, which is why you need tax attorneys at your side to help minimize the potential damage that a CPA can create. We've all had deals killed by CPAs. The reality is it's not because they don't like our deal, is they don't understand it. They don't understand it. They don't want to run the risk. They don't want the liability. And they're better off saying, well, you know, I'd be careful. Or I've heard of that and the IRS doesn't like those. So it's important as to how you structure when you're going to have the conversation with the CPA, how you're going to have the conversation with the CPA, what you're going to share with the CPA. And I will tell you, they become monumental referral sources once they understand that we're there for the same reason the CPA is, to help our mutual client and to help them increase the net practice revenue of their firm. And I don't mean by them sharing in commissions. I mean by increasing hourly rates, giving them more hours if that's what they're looking for, expanding their message to their client base. It becomes an incredible partnership.
I also just want to get back to the data that I just shared with you. Okay, so doctors' incomes are down. They don't have the business skills to figure out how to get it back up. They're burned out. They think that they need more income. They think they need to see more patients. But what if they could just harvest tax savings and didn't have to work any harder? It just makes sense. It's a message that doctors are receptive to because they're looking for creative solutions right now.
Very true. Very true.
Absolutely.
Bradley, where are you going?
I think we're going to go on the way out. Vicki, Dr. Vicki, we absolutely can't wait to work with you at the Academy coming up. Thank you so much for taking all your time and for all your guidance you provide all of our members and us personally also. And we wish you well.
Thanks. Hey, I've got an offer. How about if the people who sign up, how about if we give them digital copies of The Myth of the Rich Doctor and the 9 Money Mistakes that doctors make?
Wow.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
So if they sign,
will you do that, or are you just teasing us?
No, I'll do it.
Okay.
so anybody that registers for the Academy, you're saying, would get that, or anybody who? Oh, that's awesome. Fantastic.
That's great. Thanks, Doc.
We appreciate it. I need another copy too, by the way.
Okay. No
All right.
problem.
No. Brad's got to sign up.
All right, I'll register. What the heck? Thanks, Doctor. Thanks, Simon. Everybody have a happy, healthy balance of your day.
Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.